the property market took a slump quite a while back, and though it seems to be on the recovery, things are not back to where they should be. You noticed that, and you saw the opportunity for a concept of putting a buyer and a seller in touch with each other. The concept, I believe, is called rent to buy. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. We say, why do you need a bank from day one to conclude your transaction? Everybody is so fixed on going to a bank to get a home loan. We say, park the bond of a bank a little bit outside for a year or two. You've got a willing seller, you've got a willing buyer, and you've got a property. Those are the most important ingredients to negotiate a transaction. So we developed the concept of rent to buy. So you first rent for property, then you sign a deed of sale from day one, but during that rental period, you then have time to improve your credit status, negotiate a better interest rate. It comes back to the previous discussion.
Yes.
And then once you've gone through the rental period, you can now go to the bank and say, I've got the three ingredients that matters the most. Good credit rating, affordability, because I've paid rent, which was equal to the bond repayment, not like the normal lower rental.
Yes.
Plus, I had time to build up a deposit. Plus, my property had time to improve in value. So normally we do a rent to buy anything between 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. I've done a rent to buy for 4 years. And we've done 22 million rand transactions. I've recently done an 8 million rand transaction, and many houses and flats, 2.7 to 400,000 rand. It's actually available to any piece of property. You must just have a property, a seller, and a buyer. And later on, we'll negotiate with a bank.
So you have a property, you have a buyer, you have a seller. Are the banks open to the rent to buy concept?
Absolutely. One of the banks actually came back to me and said to me, Meyer, I want to partner with you on rent to buy. I said, hang on, what's going on here? And they said to me, the moment I bring the buyer back to them after 18 months, this client has got a track record. We looked after him. We actually put him in cotton wool, and we gave him a personal trainer and a mentor. We make sure that his budget meets his expenses every month. We give him tools that he can track his expenses. We give him home ownership education on top of that. And we continue with a home ownership after he has taken transfer. We don't walk away. We actually put him on an entire home ownership module and program. So the banks love what we do because they can see that this client is not a person that comes here with no information, no track record, and we provide them with a solid application.
Who would be the perfect person to go into a rent to buy scenario?
Number one would be a buyer that whose bond has just been declined. He's actually taken the steps to go and sign an offer to purchase. He submitted all his applications to the bank, and the bank came back and said, you know, it's maybe just one small item which I'm not happy with. Sometimes particular self-employed people, because it's like putting a needle through a camel through the needle,
Yes.
To actually get a home loan for a self-employed person. So it's so important, if a bank is declined, don't turn around and say, oh, I'll never afford a bond. Look at plan B, and rent to buy is definitely plan B. So it's a person being declined, sometimes a person that needs to improve his scorecard. He actually wants to wait. Yesterday a guy came to me and said, Meyer, I actually been approved by the bank. I said, why didn't you take up a bond? He says, you know, I need a 10% deposit. So it's ideal for a person that's actually concluded a transaction, and the bank actually turned this one down because they said, I will accept you, but you've got to bring down 10% deposit. Yes. So there are so many cases for clients that really want to get into the transaction, but they are just out of a real application to get it approved. And those are our ideal rent to buy transactions.
What happens when the prospective buyer pays more than what the rental of the property is?
Yes. We say that we've got a test for rent to buy client up to the maximum. And they only test and there are 3 legs to stand on: affordability, credit rating, and loan to value or deposit. So one test is, can your budget meet the affordability test? When you take ownership of a house, you're going to pay back your bond, you're going to pay rates and taxes and levies. So on a R1 million property, for example, you've got to pay back 10,000 rand a month on your bond repayments, depending on your interest rate. Plus you've got to pay rates, taxes, levies. So let's call it, for argument's sake, 11,000 rand.
Yes.
My test would be to you, can you pay 11,000 rand? If you can meet that, we test you very carefully on this. Then we go back to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, on the normal market, this property would rent out for 6,000 rand. There's a difference of between the 6 and the 10 is 4,000 rand. That amount is actually credited to you as putting down a deposit. So every month you are saving 4,000 Rand. Over a year, you've got 56,000 Rand. And
Yes.
that adds to the third leg. So we want to test the buyer. Can you really meet the affordability test? If he pays his rent on time, that adds to his credit profile because it adds and boosts his payment profile. And that all adds up at the end of the day that when you go to the bank, you've already got a down payment on your purchase price. You've got a good track record and you've got affordability, you'll test it yourself.
How many sellers out there are open to this rent to buy concept?
We are finding that more and more sellers are coming back to us because they realize that plan one is to find a buyer that's got a bond or that can get maybe a cash buyer. And plan B is really where you're coming back with a rent to buy, because the rent to buy gives a seller all of a sudden a massive improvement on his cash flow, because he gets 11,000 Rand. In the old days or prior to rent to buy, we get 6,000 Rand. So we're finding a lot of property developers are coming to us. They're sitting with unsold stock. If they have to put in a tenant there, it just becomes rental stock, and then you have to get the tenant out before they have to sell it. We get a lot of people with vacant land that they can't sell because to get a bond on vacant land is difficult.
Yes.
Then we get a lot of holiday houses which are sitting there. Somebody lives in the Free State or Gauteng, is holding this property, is paying the bond every month. He goes to the house maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But for a person that wants to buy it, it's quite difficult to raise a bond, put down a deposit. So we find a lot of holiday houses, property developers, and we even find people that want to downscale because they are struggling to sell the property and they want to we had people that moved into an old age home and they wanted the security of regular strong income, and therefore they were able to do a rent to buy where the buyer could move in, they could secure the place in the old age home because those opportunities become very scarce, and if you lose the opportunity, you've got to wait another year. So actually any property is available on the rent to buy concept.